G'day legends, so in this video we are finally going to be tackling the pound for pound list in the UFC. This is something that I've tried to do with the live stream about 3 or 4 times, and we can never seem to get past the first or second place on the pound for pound list, so I thought I would just take over and do it myself and release the entire thing as a nice closed off video, because we are still getting over the aftermath of UFC 303. With how the pound for pound list has turned out and where Alex Pereira finds himself on the list is completely ridiculous. And with Dana White seeming to want to attack everybody that doesn't agree with him. That guy loves freedom, and you have the freedom to agree with him no matter what about where Jon Jones belongs on the list.
He's the best ever, and he's the pound for pound best fighter in the world. And he's the pound for pound best fighter in the world.
Yeah. I think we need to start to go through the entire thing. So I'm going to take you through my entire pound for pound list right now from number 1 all the way down to number 15. And I do just want to stop here and say the pound for pound list is not a legacy list. It is not a favorites list. Quite often the fans want to treat the pound for pound list like it is, who is my favorite fighter? Okay, and the media seem to want to treat the pound for pound list as a sort of who has got the best wins right now. And Dana White wants to treat the pound for pound list as the GOAT list. They're all completely different things. The pound for pound list is a list of fighters in the UFC, and if they were all the exact same weight class, who would have the best skill set in the UFC? Who is the most skilled fighter in the UFC, pound for pound? And that is what we are going to be breaking down. So let's look at the pound for pound list as it stands right now, updated this Tuesday on the 2nd of July here in Australia. What would it have been? Oh, it would have been the 2nd of July over there in America as well. On the 2nd of July, let's have a look at the pound for pound list as it stands right now. We've got Islam Makhachev at number 1, Alex Pereira at number 2, Jon Jones at number 3, Leon Edwards number 4, Ilia Topuria number 5, Sean O'Malley number 6, number 7, Alexander Volkanovski, number 8, Max Holloway, number 9, Dricus du Plessis, number 10, Andre Pantoja, number 11, Tom Aspinall, number 12, Israel Adesanya, number 13, Charles Oliveira. Weird, where is Arman Tsarukyan? He just beat Charles Oliveira. He hasn't made it to the pound for pound list? Okay. And number 14, Sean Strickland. Number 15, Aljamain Sterling. We're throwing this entire thing out. And we're starting again from the top. Because quite frankly, Alex Pereira at number 2 on the pound for pound list is crazy. This is a skill set pound for pound list. Who has the best skills in MMA right now? And I do think it is fair to start off the list where the UFC have it, or where the esteemed gentlemen of 98.3 KFM Honolulu radio seem to think it is, but they are right about who is number 1 on the pound for pound list, and that is Islam Makhachev. I've talked about Islam Makhachev non-stop on this channel. I don't want to keep talking about him, but he does have the best well-rounded skill set in MMA at the moment. I think he has the best grappling, mixed with the best striking, mixed with the best takedown defense, and he has a submission against Charles Oliveira, the best submission artist in the UFC to date. That very well puts Islam Makhachev at number 1 on the pound for pound list. But this is where things start to get spicy. And all you poetards out there that want to keep glazing Alex Pereira forever, he is not number 2 on the list. Number 2 on the pound for pound list is Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley, right now, might be one of the best strikers, best boxers in the UFC as it is. You've really only got like Max Holloway, and that is about it. Max Holloway, Dustin Poirier, Charles Oliveira striking. Charles Oliveira striking is a little bit open because when he gets knocked in the face, he just falls down onto the ground and then has a full open guard, hoping that if someone chases him down there, he can catch them in a submission. You got Ilia Topuria. As far as good, clean striking goes, Sean O'Malley might be the best, cleanest striker in the UFC. But on top of that, he has also competed in grappling contests. There are also fights in his career when you go back and watch where if he is caught on the ground, he is throwing up jiu-jitsu from the bottom. Sean O'Malley understands takedown defense, he understands grappling, he understands jiu-jitsu, he absolutely understands striking. If you're going to have Islam Makhachev as the most well-rounded fighter in the UFC, then for the same reasons, except that maybe Sean O'Malley's grappling isn't to the levels of Makhachev's, maybe his jiu-jitsu isn't to the level of some other people in the UFC, but he has a very good understanding of all aspects of MMA, plus apparently you need to be a UFC champion to be on the pound for pound list. I don't know where that comes from, but he's also a UFC champion. He's also defended the belt. Sean O'Malley, skill for skill, is number 2 on the pound for pound list. Coming in at number 3, Alexandre Pantoja. I know, shocking. Shocked me too, really, when I sat down and thought about it and who was actually going to be number 3, but it is Alexandre Pantoja. For the same reasons that Islam is number 1, Sean O'Malley is number 2. He has the striking to be able to stand with Brandon Moreno in the center of the ring, but if this fight does start to go haywire on the feet, he's not putting anybody away, but his grappling starts to kick in. He has got such a well-rounded understanding of the game that I think now that Urseg's been shucked off, he is going to be a champion for a while now, and that is because he possesses all the skills required to be a successful MMA fighter, not just an amazing left hook like Alex Pereira. Next up is Leon Edwards. The reason that I have Leon Edwards at number 4 is because of his takedown defense. It is phenomenal. He had to put up with Kamaru Usman trying to spam takedowns at him for so long, and he was able to stay on the feet. Now, his takedown defense is not as good as Sean O'Malley's or Alexei Pantoja's, purely because he has to add a few points for the cheating. He does cheat quite a bit, quite a few fence grabs. To be fair, so does Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley was cheating a lot in that Merab Dvalishvili fight. What? In the Merab Dvalishvili fight? In the Piotr Jan fight, Sean O'Malley was cheating quite a lot. But we've seen other fights of Sean O'Malley's where he doesn't need to cheat on the bottom. He can throw up that jiu-jitsu from the bottom position to create scrambles. Whereas Leon Edwards, once you get him onto the ground, it is just all try and get up as much as you can. And he does sort of need to cheat to get back up. So his takedown defense and his ground game is not to the level of Islam Makhachev, Sean O'Malley, Alexander Pantoja. But it is so good that it has been enough to keep him undefeated for like 10 fights in a row or whatever it is, all the way up to becoming a champion. His run is phenomenal, and that is because of the level of his takedown defense, especially defending the title against a Kamaru Usman. A Kamaru Usman who could hold off Khamzat Chimaev for 15 minutes. Next up, and with this one, like Ilia Topuria and Leon Edwards, pretty interchangeable, and I would say the next time that we see each one of these fighters, Ilia Topuria is going to be rising up the pound for pound list where Leon Edwards might be dropping down it. Ilia Topuria has been a phenomenal boxer while we have seen him, but he does have that base of jiu-jitsu. It's just, I feel like we don't get to see it tested very often, and I wouldn't say that his takedown defense is to the level of a Sean O'Malley, Alexander Pantoja, or a Leon Edwards. So, but it is like fractional of a difference here. You could swap number 4 and number 5 like this. No one would be upset about that. Alexander Volkanovski is in at number 6. Listen, you do not push the number 1 pound for pound fighter in the world, who is now Islam Makhachev, to the absolute limit, right? You do not just go from the number 1 pound for pound fighter in the world to off the list. But I will be saying this. Alexander Volkanovski's next fight is going to be very telling about where he stays on this list. And today, at the time of filming this video, there are rumors that it's going to be Justin Gaethje, and I hate that fight for Volkanovski. I mean, it's the kind of fight that he needs to take at this stage in his career, but I hate that fight for Volkanovski. Either way, Alexander Volkanovski is coming in at number 6, but it is a number 6 and slipping, to be honest. Dricus du Plessis at number 7. I know, wild, isn't it? But it is Dricus du Plessis at number 7. Look, he has a unique striking style that none of us MMA fans would call clean, right? It's like Juliana Pena had a couple of wines and she's throwing some extra windmill shots. But it works for Dricus. So you've got Dricus's, what is hard to say, good striking style, but it is certainly an effective striking style for Dricus. But on top of that, he actually has the wrestling as well. When he is in a close fight, he can start to get the takedowns. He can control it on the ground. And to be a UFC champion that has thus far been undefeated in the UFC, got a win over Sean Strickland, got a win over Robert Whittaker, and I'm not using them as legacy names, I'm using them because of the skill that he needed to get those wins, and be able to control a fight on the ground as well. The 7th most skilled striker in the UFC at the moment is Dricus du Plessis, doing it in his own special and unique way. Max Holloway coming in at number 8. Max Holloway has been the number 2 contender in the world for so long, it is unbelievable. However, having the living piss beaten out of him to the level that he did from Alexander Volkanovski, it makes it very hard to put him much higher on the list than this. Quite frankly, this might be too high for Max Holloway, but his boxing is at such a high level. And when was the last time you saw Max Holloway taken down and controlled on the ground? And how long have we been watching him fight? It's been forever. Now, is that good style matchups? I don't know, but it is where we have found ourselves, and because of that, Max Holloway is coming in at number 8. Tom Aspinall. Could you argue that Tom Aspinall has better takedowns and a better ground game than Max Holloway? Yes, you could. Could you argue that Tom Aspinall has better striking than Max Holloway, Dricus du Plessis, Alexander Volkanovski, Aurelia Tapuria? No. But he is the best skilled heavyweight we have ever seen. Unfortunately, when you are making a skill for skill, pound for pound list, it is hard to visualize the guys at the heavier weight classes at how well they would do at the smaller weight classes because their shots are so slow. But let's face it, watching Tom Aspinall fight compared to the other heavyweights is like watching a welterweight. I mean, the fact that Tom Aspinall fights at the level that he does is scary for the future of heavyweight. It is amazing. Tom Aspinall is a brilliant striker, knows how to take the fight to the ground, and can get submissions as well. I don't blame Jon Jones for ducking Tom Aspinall. It's weird. I don't see Jon Jones on this list anywhere here. What's going on? Yeah, I don't blame him for ducking Tom Aspinall. And that's why Jon Jones isn't on the list. He's an inactive fighter. Tom Aspinall is literally the interim heavyweight champion. Interim. As in, he is the champion in the interim because the champion is inactive. Why is Jon Jones even on the original pound-for-pound list and Tom Aspinall is on the original pound-for-pound list as a interim champion? He is either an active fighter or he isn't. And if he is an active fighter, you don't need an interim champion. So why did we make Tom Aspinall an interim champion? Because Jon Jones isn't an active fighter. Jon Jones isn't on the pound-for-pound list. And even if he was on the pound-for-pound list, I don't know if I'd even have him in the top 10 yet, okay? He got outstruck by Dominic Reyes, and his wrestling is, okay, yes, he was a great wrestler years ago, and he out-wrestled Cyril Gane. But still, I think Tom Aspinall could take Jon Jones down and control him. I think Jan Blachowicz could take Jon Jones down and control him. For real. Facts. So he's not on the list. Sean Strickland. Coming in at number 10. Sean Strickland. I know, I can hear the screaming already. Where's Israel Adesanya? Where's Alex Pereira? I can hear you guys already. I can hear the clicking keyboards from here in Australia all the way on the other side of the world. Sean Strickland is a phenomenal fighter because of his boxing style and how well it shuts down other boxers. But it is not just that. It shuts down other Muay Thai fighters and kickboxers. It shuts down all aspects of oncoming striking when it is on point, except for Alex Pereira. Alex Pereira must have some black magic to lull Sean Strickland into not moving, but he did. However, when you are looking at the skill for skill list across the board, you do have to take into account that Sean Strickland has got far better get-ups than Alex Pereira. In fact, since we're comparing the two, why don't I bring in Alex Pereira now? Sean Strickland has got better get-ups than Alex Pereira. We've seen Alex Pereira taken down and controlled in that first round by Jan Blachowicz. We've seen Sean Strickland grappled against the cage and people attempting to take him down plenty of times, and he's very good at being able to post and get back up. We also hear a lot of stories from the training room, from the gyms, about how good Sean Strickland's ground game is. He just never wants to use it. So I do believe that Sean Strickland has a skill for skill advantage over Alex Pereira. It was just his fight IQ on the night that gave him the L against Alex Pereira. And having that skill there and choosing not to use it is very, very different to Pereira, who might not have that skill at all and is still relentlessly working on it. Now, as far as the be-all and end-all of this list, the pound-for-pound list is updated every Tuesday after a pay-per-view event or after a big fight night card. So I do expect this list to move, and I can absolutely see a world where Magomed Ankalaev spams a bunch of takedowns at Alex Pereira, and he is able to stop all of them. And I take Alex Pereira and rocket him straight up the list in the mix with your Sean O'Malley's and your Alexander Pantoja's. Dustin Poirier at number 12. You do not fight the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world a month ago and push him to what one of the judges scored as 2-2 rounds going into the last round. You push the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world using your takedown defense, your counter wrestling, your striking. You push him to the 5th round of a title fight where one judge has it 2-2. Did one judge have it 2-2? I hope one judge had it 2-2. Whatever. I had it 2-2. Surely one judge had it 2-2. Did one judge have it 2-2? Let's check right now. Scorecards for Alex Pereira. Oh my God. I'm going to look like such an idiot. Oh my god, I'm going to get so laughed at if this didn't happen. One judge had a 2-2, right? One judge had a 2-2. 10-9, 10-9. Yeah, Chris Lee. 10-9, 10-9, 10-9, 10-9. Yes, Chris Lee. One judge had a 2. Yeah. Back to my argument. That's what I was saying. Yeah. You don't push the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world in a 25-minute fight with one of the judges. Chris Lee had it 2-2 going into the 5th round. Is that true? I did definitely get that right? 10-9, 10-9, 10-9, 10-9, 5th round, 9 scored. Yep. So there you go. And that puts you on the pound-for-pound list. At least for now. Until his next fight, or until this list mixes up a little bit. Yeah? You push the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world to such a fight, to such an extent, you're on there, mate. So, I tell you what, I gotta save, this is a sport, and I gotta save the teams that I'm rooting for. And it's Team Poirier, and Team Strickland, and Team DDP, and Team Holloway, and Volkanovski. I'm working hard here to keep my favorite fighters in the pound-for-pound list. Anyway, stop screwing around, Doug. Let's get to work. Number 13 on the pound-for-pound list is Steve Erceg. I'm not playing here. It's Steve Erceg, okay? Steve Erceg pushed number 3 on the pound-for-pound list the same way that Dustin Poirier pushed number 1 on the pound-for-pound list. All the way to the end. In fact, some would argue, and I would argue, some would argue that he won that fight. But others would be a little bit less biased than I am and admit that he was winning that fight all the way until the last 2.5 minutes of the last round, where he threw himself into a takedown and botched the entire thing. But he clearly has these skills over not a thing like Sean Strickland versus Alex Pereira, where it's Sean Strickland making just horrible decision making. No. He clearly has these skills over 23 minutes of good decision making to beat number 3 on the pound-for-pound list. And if it wasn't for one dumb little mistake, who knows where Steve Erceg would be sitting on this list right now. So, credit where credit is due. I'm not just a biased Australian trying to put as many of my favorites onto the pound-for-pound list as I can. I'm not. But Steve Erceg is number 13 on the list. Shavkat Rakhmonov.
Shavkat Rakhmonov. That man gives me chills.
Brilliant fighter. Great striking. 100% finish rate. Took down Wonderboy, who is incredibly hard to take down. There is a skill level there in taking Wonderboy down that is so hard to do, and then submitted Wonderboy. Shavkat Rakhmonov is just waiting to get the belt put around him. We were speaking earlier in the live chat. Who do you want to see win more? Leon Edwards or Bilal Muhammad? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. July next year, Shavkat Rakhmonov is defending his title for the first time against JDM. And it's going to be epic. So right now, Shavkat Rakhmonov is 14 on the pound-for-pound list and climbing. And that means coming in at number 15 on the pound-for-pound list is one of the GOATs. One of the best fighters. Obviously, he's one of the best fighters in the UFC. It's a pound-for-pound list. Doug, you idiot. Coming in at number 15, Corey the Sandman Sandhagen. Brilliant boxing, brilliant get-ups, brilliant counter-wrestling. Fought Rob Font, who is a boxer, but fought Rob Font with all wrestling because he was injured. The mind that is in Sandhagen for this game is brilliant, and he is learning all of the skills. He is now getting to the point where he is realizing where his holes are in that robbery against TJ Dillashaw, where he can be leaned up on and a little bit wrestled against. So he is learning everything that he needs to fill in the gaps, to sandbag the gaps. If I can, for Sandhagen. That was good, wasn't it? To sandbag the gaps in his game, to become the most well-rounded fighter that he can. That puts him at number 15. There you go. That is the proper, the correct, updated UFC pound-for-pound list, skill-for-skill list. Not legacy, all right? Alex Pereira might become one of the best fighters of all time. He might have one of the best legacies already, okay? But when you break down skill-for-skill, I believe that these are... Steve Erceg's a bit questionable, and Sean Strickland's a bit quick, but I believe that these are the best 15 fighters in the UFC at the moment. This is the correct pound-for-pound list. Tell Dana White to shove Jon Jones up his... Let me know what you think about it down in the comments. Until then, you guys have a great day, and I will see you all in the next video.